Fans of Game of Thrones and the books by George R.R. Martin have been highly anticipating the new House of the Dragon prequel. Now, HBO has released a new extended trailer. Let's check out everything that was revealed in the trailer and some things that you might have missed. There are Easter eggs and legends from the past that come to life. Let's check out all the details. Firstly, what is House of the Dragon? This is the new adaptation of Game of Thrones, both the shows and the books, and will show the time when Aegon II and his half-sister Rhaenyra fight over their father's throne. It is a really significant time in the history of Westeros. It is a war of succession that did major damage to the House of Targaryen. It created the situation that we know from the first series, and while there are hundreds of years between the events of House of the Dragon to the time of the Game of Thrones, these are still the same families, and there are still some family heirlooms that will sure to pop up in the new series. The new extended teaser revealed a number of little details that you could have missed. Let's check out some of them. Up next, Blackfyre makes an appearance. Fans of the books and the show know that there is a bunch of legendary swords that have been around in Westeros. They belong to the great houses, and two of those swords belong to the Targaryens. There was one really special longsword that was wielded by Aegon the Conqueror during his conquest. It was then kept in the family, and each king among the Targaryen wielded the sword, until it was given to an illegitimate son and lost from the family. But during the time period of House of the Dragon, the sword was very much still a part of the family. It was something that fans were excited to see, and we already got our very first glimpse of the legendary sword. It happened when King Viserys is addressing the Lord of Westeros, and Blackfyre is in his hand at the stage. Pretty cool. It was made of Valyrian steel. This is one of the only materials that are able to kill the infamous White Walkers. It was a really powerful weapon, but also a symbol of claim to the throne. That is why it might play a really big role in this show. And now for the new dragons. This was a time of the dragons, and if House of the Dragon will remain close to the books, then we will get a lot more dragons than ever in Game of Thrones history. They had more than a dozen new dragons in the books. It is going to be pretty awesome to see how they will bring these new dragons to life. We got to see one of the new dragons in the teaser. Check out the moment when it is flying over King's Landing. She is a dragon called Syrax. The she-dragon is known for her distinct yellow scales and the massive role she played in the Dragon Pit riots. Her rider is one of the main characters in the new show, Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen. Hopefully that means we will see a lot of Syrax. Moving on now to Aegon's painted table. Another small detail that ties into the Game of Thrones was a very special table. Fans of the franchise first got to see this table back in season 2 of Game of Thrones when Daenerys arrived on Dragonstone. It was during this time when she brought all of her allies together. They discussed strategy in front of Aegon's painted table. Now we're gonna see a lot more of this table and where it came from. It was built by Aegon Targaryen, who used it to plan different invasions. The detailed drawings were really maps that were very special, and some of the best that was on offer at the time. He created these maps with the help of his sisters. They all surveyed the continent from the air with the help of dragons, of course. You can see this table in the trailer in the moment when Rhaenyra is seen holding a meeting with her war council. Who could have missed the Iron Throne? This one is pretty cool. It showed the Iron Throne that has been the source of major conflict in Game of Thrones, and it will also be the same source of conflict in the House of Dragon. And the reason that this major civil war will eventually break out. The Iron Throne is really iconic, but if you look carefully, you will see that the throne looks a bit different than the one that we used to know. The throne was built after Aegon's conquest, made from swords of his conquered enemies, and it was Aegon's dragon, Valyrian, who forged the throne with his own fire. In the trailer, we see some lords kneeling before the throne, and it is slightly more elevated and asymmetrical in design, and is surrounded by swords. It looks more like the book version than ever. We know this because George R.R. Martin wrote a lengthy blog post about the throne and how the Game of Thrones version differs from the throne that he had in his mind. This has now been rectified, and the new throne will completely fit his vision. Have you watched the trailer? Are you excited to see the show? What do you hope to see in the series? Let us know all your thoughts in the comments section. We love to hear from you. Next up, we're going to check out even more small details that you could have missed, like the very special brooch and a familiar dagger, plus so much more. Stick with us. Up next, the brooch that is a symbol of power. Right from the moment that Otto Hightower appears on the screen in the trailer of the House of Dragon, fans of the franchise knew that he was going to be someone very special. How? Because his special pin is really significant. He has a pin with a hand on it, and that means that Otto is the hand of the king, a trusted advisor to the ruler of Westeros. In Game of Thrones, things didn't always work out so well for these hands of the king in the past. We can't wait to see how things turn out for him this time around. And of course, there was Arya Stark's dagger. There are a number of important weapons that are making an appearance in the prequel too. This is because many of them are heirlooms that have been given down from generation to generation. At the same time, some of these weapons might have had a different start in life and have gone on an interesting journey. They might pop up in a completely different family or somewhere unexpected. In Game of Thrones, Arya Stark had a really important dagger that is used to kill the Night King in the final season. But in the trailer, this same dagger shows up in the hands of Alicent Hightower, who is the daughter of Otto and who is portrayed by Olivia Cooke. She is seen running through a group of people with this dagger, but we don't know why she has the weapon. What the trailer does show is how Alicent is trying to use the dagger on Rhaenyra. It looks like Alicent will become just as much of a key adversary in the show as she is to Rhaenyra in the books. It is gonna be interesting to see. And now we have the necklace by the younger Rhaenyra. The trailer has already shown that we will be getting a lot more interesting timelines, with flashbacks to the time when Rhaenyra was a young girl and back to the present timeline of the show. It was something that Game of Thrones didn't often do, so it'll be a cool change to the storytelling. But there is one interesting piece of jewelry that the younger version of Rhaenyra is wearing in the trailer. During the fealty ceremony, she is seen wearing the colors of her house, but it is the necklace that she is wearing that is really interesting. She has been named Viserys heir, and the chain signifies that. It has several chains on it that symbolize several of the houses. It is meant to show that the Seven Kingdoms will be united under Rhaenyra, but will that ever happen? Will she rule them all? It is going to be interesting. And finally, Dragonstone returns. Dragonstone is really important from the House of Targaryens in Game of Thrones. It is an ancestral stronghold. In Season 7 of Game of Thrones, Daenerys goes to Dragonstone to regroup with her forces. It is a pretty important place in Season 7 of Game of Thrones. It seems like Dragonstone is going to be just as important in House of the Dragon. During one of the opening shots of the new teaser, we see Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen standing on the edge of a cliff, staring at the ocean. It is very similar to the shot that we've seen Daenerys doing the same thing in the same spot years later. It kind of brings it all home that this is the same family, and the descendants that we know so well have come from them. It is going to be really interesting to see how things are different, and just how they are exactly the same too. Did you see any more little details that we missed? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching!